All right. Hello to everybody watching the recording. Today's topic is going to be position management because I have a very nice example of how you can manage positions around key levels. This is a little more advanced because it includes lower time frame stuff. Sorry guys, I should share my screen with you as well, I guess. And I have a good example right here, and I said it's a little more advanced, and if you're not like ready for lower time frame stuff, it's probably not that great for you. But it's anyway, this is how I trade, and I made this little poll yesterday where I ask people if this is helpful what I'm sharing here, but because I'm oftentimes I'm not quite sure if this is really helpful, sharing all this lower time frame stuff and how I execute and going in and out and everything. And it might seem a bit messy, but I promise you it's with structure. And the thing is, why do I manage my positions so much? First of all, I got into this ETH trade up here in the 8-day, which front run the 2-day level. So I scaled into this and I shared it, and then I shorted. After this first touch, I shorted this. I TP'd here, and we front run it again. I thought I get stopped out of my short, which didn't happen, and we went for the 2-day. And now we are in the 2-day, and I'm very comfortable in this position being long because I have the short running. So the short is more or less covering, or at least covering a part of this stop. Should I take a full stop? And my idea of position management is that I never take a full stop, and that I understand when the level is really working or when not. But as said, this is a little more advanced, and if you're still like in your beginning stages, this might be more confusing than helpful. But overall, this is how I trade, and I think this is where my good performance most of the time comes from, because if I never pay a full stop, and if I'm able to cut my positions early, like instead for 1 R, I pay only 0.1 or 0.2 R, or 0.5 or whatever it is, it's not a full stop, but my risk is still like managed. So I've put on 1% risk here, right? And if I take this full stop, it's still 1%. And depending on your portfolio size, 1% might be much, might be not much, but in the end, it's 1%, it's 1 R. And if I pay this, that's totally fine. I've managed my risk. I'm willing to pay the stop for this idea. But if I don't have to, why would I pay the stop fully if I understand market structure? And in this case, I've entered. So let's break this down completely. And you can read that in the ETH channel and in the scalping channel. And this is where I don't know where I should share everything, because this is obviously a scalp, but it's still part of the same idea. So it's technically still the same ETH trade in my opinion, but yeah, it is what it is. I share it in the scalp channel because I don't want to confuse people with too much lower time frame stuff. The thing is, we went into the 8-day here, and I entered because the volume was quite high. We saw a lot of selling into this level, and we had some confluence on total 1. We had tether dominance, so it was reasonable to enter here for a potential front run. And this is what I did. And because lower time frame structure is from this point on is turning down. From here on, we formed lower highs and lower lows. And with this big sell-off here, we definitely broke structure to the downside. So the whole momentum is gone from here. And from this point on, we broke it down. So technically, I'm longing a downtrend. But of course, if we zoom out and according to higher time frame structure, everything is aligning with trend. And this is what sometimes confuses people, because we are in an uptrend. So it's reasonable to look for longs. But this whole long idea here is not very optimal, because, I mean, look where we are at the chart. We are at higher time frame premium. We are also above this high here, and we are at all-time highs. So it's definitely not the most optimal area to look for long. So this is all like not on big size and not spot. And this is just me selling spot and adding some back at the key level here for a shorter term position, because I've made some gains with my spot back, and now we have this key level below. So I see a reason to go long here. But at the same time, I'm very aware that this is very risky, and so the size is not too big, and I'm very like cautious with managing my position. And this is why I like went in on the front run, and then I saw, okay, good, we're getting rejected again, which was then here. Because looking at this whole structure, I mean, look at this big sell-off from this area. And I could refine this and I could find some hidden liquidity or whatever, but I think on lower time frame, this is not so important because this whole area to me is supply. And if I see some kind of rejection here, which we had, this is definitely resistance. So I can go short with my stop above those highs here. And this is totally reasonable. I could drag a fib, I could do everything, but this is just me looking at this and saying, okay, good. Whales sold aggressively here. They're probably going to sell this again. And we also front run the level. We have a key level below, which acts like a magnet, and the whole level is not very optimal. So I have two options. I either like TP at the first area of resistance, which is for a higher time frame position, of course, not very like rewarding from a risk to reward perspective. I could, of course, take a lower time frame trade or whatever, but the idea is a higher time frame trade. So taking a TP here is not making too much sense to me. And so I decided to sell with a short, which is in the end also still selling. So I sold here, which in fact then hedges my long position. And because the stop is way tighter, more or less the whole position is balancing each other, because if I put on 1% risk on a wide stop and if I put on scalp size on a tighter stop, it wasn't covered completely, but it covered a good chunk of my position. And so this whole area, as said, supply, very likely that we're going to reject at least into this area here, which we did. We formed this little lower time frame higher high here, which was in the end just a manipulation move. And this I TP'd here, which is totally reasonable in my opinion, because this is the range low according to the swing. And then we went lower, and I added actually here a bit to the bigger ETH position, or did I? No, this wasn't Doge, sorry. I'm mixing this up a bit. And then we went up again, and I thought I get stopped here. Then I saw this wick, and we broke down from here, and then I knew, okay, good, this is going down further. I didn't add here, but I was still very confident in my short. I moved my stop loss to break even because my entry was here, and the 2-day level is down there, just for complete. So the whole setup looked like this in the beginning. I mean, this is not very sexy, right? Because the stop is very wide. But in the end, this was just my front run order, just in case, because so many levels go front run lately, just in case. And should we like reverse from here and take out the first area of resistance, I can always decide to tighten this or whatever and add on a retest. But seeing this getting rejected again from this area, big wick here, big absorption here, breaking down. So I moved my stop to break even, and which got hit here. I got stopped at break even, and we went for the 2-day. Yesterday evening, I entered because I had this limit order here, but I cut it early because this was just going further down. So I entered here in this little area. We had this bounce, we rejected from here, and I said, okay, good. As long as this is just grinding further down like this, I really see no reason to be long here, because this is just like, this could end in an impulse and go for the next key level. And we are nowhere near an optimal level here. So why would I, so I don't need this position, first of all. And so why would I risk taking a full stop here if structure is still turning down? So I cutted this around break even again, and then I waited and I saw this, and then I saw some strength here, and then this was right before I went to bed. And so I said, okay, good. It's at least the downsloping trend is broken. This doesn't mean we need to reverse from here, but this is at least a sign that everything, it's at least possible that you reverse from here, because if this is just holding and grinding further down and just losing the level, there's no reason for me to be long. There's no reason to wait for this stop loss down here to be hit, because there's just no momentum. And as said, this might be confusing in the beginning, and this might be exhausting in the beginning for some. But in my opinion, understanding this is going to help you so much to trade key levels, and not taking full stop will help you to perform a lot better, because if this is working, I'm in a good position, and if it's not working, I'm not paying the full stop for it. And in the end, you could also, like, I have this position right on with the hard stop. And you could also see it like this, because if this is not holding here, if we start losing this again and momentum is completely fading again, we're just going further down, because as said, locally, we are definitely in this downtrend here. And I mean, this is quite high to define, but should we break this, I'm getting more confident that this is going to reverse. But if this is just breaking further down, I see no reason to let my stop hit down here. But as said, this is me, this is my position management, and I do this for almost all my positions besides most optimal ones. And this is very important because I don't want to ruin my most optimal setups with something like that. But we are nowhere near an optimal setup. I mean, we are at all-time highs on ETH. We are very heated. The whole market is bullish. The news are bullish, everything. So I sold my spot here for a reason. And it would be nice to add something back for potential another leg higher or whatever. But as said, everything here is not optimal, high risk. And so I don't see a reason to take this full stop. But if we are at optimal levels, I just buy spot and I don't touch it again. I just remove it from my exchange. And I'm waiting for a clear close below the level. But why would I do this here around all-time highs? So this just makes no sense. So I'm very defensive in my management. And as said, this is costing me a little more energy and a little more thought process and discipline and all that. But overall, this is working quite well for me. I'm looking at my data and everything. So right now I'm in this 2-day, but I'm also in this little scalp short, which is hedging part of my stop should I pay it. And worst case, I pay 1% here because maybe I leave the house, maybe I go for breakfast and I come back and there's this big liquidation event, something like this here. This could always happen. Within 5 minutes, we see a 5% drop, which could always happen. So I have always my hard stop in place. So either way, I'm paying maximum 1%, which is a clear defined risk. And best case, I pay less. And real best case, I don't pay a stop at all because the price is just reversing from here. But right now, everything is still pointing down, and I see no reason to be overexcited here at a not optimal level. And so I'm very defensive in my whole management and also in my Doge trade. I actually fumbled it. I wanted to TP here. I accidentally closed the whole position, which is now, looking at this wick here, it was not too bad. I mean, I made good money on this one, but it was, of course, a management mistake. But it is what it is. We have this key level below, and we are not at an optimal level on ETH and on majors right now. So I was long here. I made some money here. So great. Should we go higher from here? I have still my spot back. And should we not? This was the right mistake to make. And also on the Luna stablecoin, the level is holding quite well. So I'm already almost tempted to re-enter again. But looking at ETH and not seeing what I want to see, more or less, I'm gonna wait a little more. And should ETH decides to reverse, I mean, we're still at a good area on this chart, so this looks more optimal, right? We are at higher time frame discount, but of course this is all based on majors, so this is not optimal on itself because ETH is not optimal. So I'm also very defensive with this one, and same as always, I have also a spot bag running in case I'm just missing this trade. So there's nothing lost by managing my risk overly defensive at a not optimal level, in my opinion. And as said, this is usually how I treat all my positions. If I got the time, I try to hedge at some point, and you will see a lot of structure looking like this. I mean, the best levels usually hit with speed and with violence and big selling. And from this point of this first sell-off, more or less, we're talking about bullish levels here. It's the same vice versa, but and so just so much. The thing about this, in crypto, everybody wants to be long all the time. Everybody wants to be here for the biggest alt season of all time and all this. So shorting is an edge in itself. And this is why I usually also scalping and all that. Usually shorts work a lot better for me. And look at your own data, make your own assumptions. Maybe it's different for you, but for me, shorts work a lot better in crypto, and I make my most money from most optimal spot buys. And trading wise, I usually make the most money. So last month was a little different because I caught this bullish swing on 5 longs. But usually I make more money shorting crypto because, as said, nobody wants to do this anyway, because we have the first dip, everybody tries to buy the dip, it keeps on dipping, everybody tries to buy the dip, and for now it's just a bearish retest right here. So this is still not like, oh yeah, we are making higher highs here. Yeah, locally we do, but overall, in context of this low time frame swing, we are hitting resistance here, and we're still just making a bearish retest. And so should this break down here, not giving me the signs I want to see, I'm cutting this position very quick. And you see, instead of a 1 hour, I'm probably paying just 0.2 hour, 0.3 hour. So I can go in with 1%, and in the end I pay 0.2, 0.3%. Worst case, or like suboptimal case. And you see, I could also treat the position like this, but it's a lot more stressful to have the hard stop here, and you know that crypto is just wicking around sometimes. And I don't want to get wicked out and then see price reverse. No, I want to have a clear understanding what's going on within here. And then I decide on myself manually when to cut the bag, when to pull the trigger of being not in this long anymore. And as said, if I play the position like this, the hours, of course, we have like a 10-hour trade to the highs or to the all-time highs. And considering that I'm like risking 0.3% for this idea, more or less, I have a 10-hour idea for a 0.3% risk, and I have a 3-hour idea for a 1% risk. And you see, with position management, there's a lot of things are possible. And this is, in my opinion, where the magic happens, because this is why I try to share everything, even though I think it can be confusing at times. And I'm not, that's why I asked yesterday in the poll, I'm not quite sure why, if I should share this and if this is really helpful. But this is how I manage all my positions, and I think this is where the real magic happens. Because, yeah, I could also share a chart, optimal level, and then 2 days later, it's either stopped or not. But for me, this is not how I trade, and this is, like I said, this is where the magic happens, in my opinion, and where you can like squeeze the most out of such positions and be like very good exposed with very small risk, if you know what you do. But as said, it's also more time consuming, it's also more energy draining, and especially in the beginning, it will lead to you fumble positions or over managing or whatever. And it took me a long time to manage this skill, to learn this skill, this position management skill. But by now, sometimes I fumble positions, don't get me wrong, so I'm not always right in reading the whole low time frame thing because it's very messy sometimes. But overall, it's the reason why my performance is getting better and better. And so I do it like this. And I also just recommend to just do this with majors if you try to play your levels like that. And also don't do this at most optimal key levels, because if everything aligns, you have majors in discount, or you have tether dominance in premium, and you have this big higher time frame level, you have everything lining up. Don't overmanage your most optimal plays. But if it's suboptimal, if it's something in between, like right now, all-time high and everything, in my opinion, it's better to be more defensive. And if it's a most optimal level, like for example on higher time frame ETH-wise, I don't really care what's happening here. I just started buying below 2K. I started buying spot ETH. It broke down. Okay, I don't care. I buy more. I buy more. I buy more. And in the end, I averaged into 1.7, 1.8 something. Because this was most optimal. Okay, we lost the 2 month. Okay, we lost the monthly, but we didn't close below here. Everything was so bearish. Like the world is going past. Terrorists are going to, blow the whole world up. Whatever the reason was, everything was so bearish here. So I don't really care about my spot back. Of course, if you try to trade anything within this range, like getting into longs here, that's something else. But I'm still very exposed from there anyway. So if I fumble my long here because I did something wrong, I'm still very exposed spot-wise, and so I treat it as two different games. And right here, as said, I do it like that. And I only do this on majors because if you, for example, try to apply the strategy on low volume altcoins, first of all, they're all based on majors anyway. So I really see no reason to trade them on their own, because if ETH is not behaving, it doesn't really matter what I do to Doge, because right here, in this area, yeah, we might like percentage wise, we went a little higher from this level, right? So we went up here. So this was the entry. We did 7%, but of course your stop loss is also wider. So in the end, it's still RR, and a 7% move probably won't pay you more than a, like for example here, even though I didn't TP on this ETH long, it was just a 4% move. But in the end, more or less the same thing happened. ETH reversed from the 8-day, front run the 2-day, went higher, and the Doge took the 12-hour double hidden here, like right here, and it went up for a bearish retest, and now it's rejecting. If it's going to reject from here for sure, and it's going lower into the low key level, I can't tell yet, but more or less the same thing happened, only that ETH is now grinding lower, and while ETH is making the bearish retest within this little context range here, Doge is making a higher high, but this is where altcoins often mislead. I'm not saying this is the case for sure here, but altcoins often mislead by looking different than they are. They look more bearish, they look more bullish, because they're just more manipulated. And if you like try to apply such strategies on them, usually it's a lot more confusing. And while this looks strong, Doge is probably not going to rip with ETH losing this level. So I really want to see what ETH is doing to decide what Doge is doing. So for this whole trading strategy, for the whole position management thing, I just applied to Bitcoin and ETH. And then if I, for example, take other positions on altcoins, I manage them accordingly, according to ETH. And I also, of course, if I take 3 positions around the same area on the chart, the risk just adds up. And this is why I also managed, for example, Doge and the USTC position a lot more defensive, because I'm aware that I'm just adding up risk. And so if 1 or 2 react, I probably move my stop to break even and let one a little more room, or I TP one on this more, I TP more on one of them, while letting the others run, or trying to let the others run. And you see, this is a very fluid approach. And in my opinion, as said, this is where the magic happens with all the position management. And if you understand the majors, the behavior of the majors, it gets a lot easier to take altcoin positions. And in the end, as said, it's all about RR. So most of the time, it's not even worth looking at altcoins, because if it's more difficult, if it's more confusing, and if it's just doing what majors are doing, and it's just about RR, why would you trade these altcoins anyway? Besides, there is a real advantage to that, and sometimes the positions, the levels are more clean, or the RR is better to the range high or whatever. Then sometimes it makes sense to expose yourself to those. But in my opinion, overall, yeah, they're just doing what majors do. So there's really no advantage most of the time to spread yourself too thin, look at too many different tickers at once. If you understand majors behavior, you understand what altcoins are going to do next. So yeah, this was my little rant about position management here. And right now, as said, either way, I'm going to make some money here, because if the 2-day is going to reverse from here, I'm in this good long on 1% risk. Should we break this down, I probably cut this early, because if there's no real sign of strength, the whole structure here is pointing down, and I'm not taking the full stop. And also, if we go down, the short here is printing. So either way, I'm prepared right now. Yeah, I did a TP on Doge, unfortunately the full TP as said, and I cut my USTC position because I just don't see what I see on what I want to see on ETH, even though, as said, I'm almost a little tempted because this is holding so well. But also, should we just go higher from here and ETH is showing me strength as well. There's really no like downside of entering a little bit late because I wait for signs of strength. And right now ETH is not showing me that. And so I can wait a little longer because, as said, in context of this whole thing here, if I enter 1, 2, 5% higher, it's really not that bad to wait for signs of strength, because as we all know, nukes can occur at any time, and you see like 5% moves within a 5-minute candle. I really don't want to be overexposed, especially at a suboptimal level. Okay, guys, I think that's it from my side. Any questions? Yeah, and of course, I mean, a 5% nuke on ETH is probably something way worse on such coins. I mean, look at this red candle. We're talking 8% within 5 minutes. We're talking on Doge. It was like, look at this candle. It was also 8%. And so, yeah, there's so many opportunities out there, and with a little more patience, I can get into much better place with much less risk, and I rather manage those a little more defensive. I have no problem missing out and being more optimal exposed. It's not a question, but I found your mental game has to be on point with the low time frame stuff. I found this out the hard way. Yeah, that's definitely true. And it's a performance game. So for me, it's also not the same always. So sometimes I'm better in this. Sometimes I'm worse in this. Sometimes I let the market trick myself. Sometimes I'm just too emotional to do this, or I don't have the time. For example, time is also a big thing, because if I don't have the time, like I'm traveling or I need to figure stuff out with the family or whatever it is, driving car or whatever, I surely won't go on lower time frame to manage my higher time frame position. But if I have the time for that, like right now, and if it's not optimal, I think there's a big advantage to that. But of course, you need to be ready for it. Your mental game needs to be on point. You need to have the time for that. And if I don't have the time, for example, I can always decide to go into the 2-day, and I only risk 50%, and I just let my heart stop where it is, and it's either working or not. But if I have the time, I see a lot of advantages doing this. Albert talked about his morning routine on his live stream, and now I'm interested in yours. Maybe you answered already some time ago. And if you have an evening routine before bed. Yeah, I usually wake up and I scroll TikTok for like 10 hours. No, just joking. Bye-bye, Paul. No, I'm really joking. So I try to get up and around the same time, but because I'm like free, I don't get up around the same time. But I used to get up at 5. Nowadays, I usually get up at 6 or something, and it's just when the sun comes up. So in the winter, it's a little later. In the summer, it's a little earlier. And I try to live with the sun cycle, which works best for me. Then I go outside, I water my plants, get some sunlight in my eyes, or I mean, the sun is usually behind the mountains still, but I get some real daylight into my eyes, which is very helpful, very powerful in the morning to wake up. Some fresh air. Usually it's very cold because we are very high in the mountains. And I go out in t-shirt, so it's cold. I have light. This is better than any coffee. I water my plants. Then if I have a lot of positions open, I usually like have a small look onto my trading view, just to see if anything important happens, or if I can wait for a little, if the market can wait for a little longer. And most of the time it's nothing happening anyway, or nothing I need to do instantly. sometimes I get up and I got an alarm, and I just go to the computer instantly because I see, okay, good, we are in the level right now, job red, and I really want to see what's happening there, and I want to enter, and this is very helpful because I got my alarm and then I do that. But as said, usually I go outside, water the plants, then I do my exercise routine, which includes a core exercise, 50 push-ups and like 10, 15 pull-ups. I do this every day. And then I sit down and do my market routine, which is checking all my running positions, checking all my new trades, checking potential alarms, majors. Stocks usually are not to be checked around this time of day because when I go to bed, it's almost closing time for stocks. So when I wake up, usually nothing changed. And so I just check the whole crypto market, my running positions. And then I do a breathing routine. I do some reading. I make myself a breakfast. Then I start or I do my exercise first and then do a breakfast, or I have my breakfast and then do my exercises, like my sport routine, my big sport routine. It all depends. So from this point on, my day gets very fluid, and also depends if I have a customer or mentee or whatever it is. So from this point on, my day is very fluid, but I try to keep my core routine in the morning, which is going outside, getting fresh air, getting some light, some real daylight, doing some sports, checking the market, checking my positions, manage them if needed, and doing a breathing routine or meditation, reading. And from this point on, my day is rather flexible. And in the evening, we have since a few weeks, I wanted to make a post about this anyway. We have this, it's called some kind of elixir. My fiance, she's really into yoga, and she found a woman which showed her this elixir type of stuff, which is ginger, cinnamon, mint. I guess recording's on again. So this elixir is ginger, cinnamon, lemon, mint, and we drink this every day. It's good for the whole body, anti-inflammation, getting your body starting up, what is the word, if it burns calories, and it just starts the engine more or less. And in the evening we drink the same thing again, and cold shower. And during the day I have a cold plunge, or I cold shower after my workout. And as I said, this is all a bit more flexible. But yeah, I think a proper morning routine is really, 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 really powerful. And to be honest, every successful person, might it be a trader, a business person, some kind of athlete, performer, whatever it is, all those people have some kind of proper morning routine. In my opinion, you don't need to get up at 5 a.m. every day, but it definitely helps to require the discipline and do some proper habit stacking, because if you get up at the same time, it's a lot easier to do the same thing again and again and again. And I did that for quite a long time, but nowadays my habits are so implemented, I don't really need this anymore, and I just give my body the rest it needs. And usually, as I said, if the sun comes up, I'm up. And so doing some a fixed time, and 5 a.m. can be very powerful, because usually nobody likes to get up at 5 a.m. And if you do this every day, the amount of discipline you build is insane. And having a proper morning routine is makes all the difference for the day, for your life, for your performance, in my opinion. And if your morning routine is shit, if you get up and scroll your phone, eat some garbage more or less, and start your day like that, read the news and get yourself poisoned with all those narratives and all this, it's probably not going to be very helpful with everything you do in life. So having some kind of proper morning routine, whatever suits your schedule, is great. And I think the most important things are fresh air, some daylight, some exercise, starting the body up, and starting your days with 3 wins, which is body, mind, and your profession. And as we are all traders, it's probably good to implement some trading routine into your morning. So this is how I start my days. And as said, proper morning routine is probably what everybody could need, more or less. Yeah, so as said, a fixed time is probably for implementing a good morning routine is probably a fixed time is great, especially if you work a job which requires you to be around your job at a certain time, which means like if you need to start at 7, which was my usual schedule, getting up at 5 is perfect because then I have 2 hours and I spend 1 hour like really focusing on my habits and my routine, and I have 1 hour of preparing for the job and or getting there because usually it's not around around your home, and so I think 5 a.m. is good for early schedule. But as I said, I think 5 is not really a magical time itself. It's just because people hate to get up early. Most people hate it, and 5 a.m. is usually when it's still dark and when everybody's still sleeping, and you're ahead of everybody, getting up in the dark, being disciplined about this, forcing yourself more or less to get out of bed, start your day. And this will make you tough, this will make you strong, and this will help you to implement a proper morning routine. And I mean, as said, look at every successful person in every field, and you will usually see that they all have proper routines. Some might have them earlier, some might have them later. It all depends on your situation. If you're getting up at 5 every day and you're completely exhausted the whole day and it doesn't really help your performance in any way, yeah, it's probably not the right thing to do. But this is very personal. And you don't get me wrong, you will feel exhausted when you start with this, and you will find many reasons why you won't do this anymore. And this is you should like push through that. But if you see after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months that it helps you and you have now the right routines and everything, but every time around noon you get so tired, and if you just get up 30 minutes later or an hour later, that's not the case, and you perform better and you feel better, why would you force yourself still to do this? It's after a certain point, once you acquire the discipline and all that, it's just about like doing what's best for you and not forcing yourself. It's like doing 7 workouts a week and your joints are hurting and you can't recover. For some people, it might be the best thing in the world to do that, and they have no pain and they can recover this. And for your body, it's just too much. Do whatever is good for you, but usually people are so stuck in bad habits that they don't feel what's good for them anymore. And so we need to require the discipline and the right habits first to then really figure out what is really good for us. And so you probably need a time where you force yourself with discipline to really, really do that. Do you think we could play alts as a range at the moment? You can play everything as a range all the time. And for example, I said I closed it completely, but the idea was to TP here and here anyway. What is this? Oh, that's the wrong chart. To TP here and here anyway. So I usually treat all of my trades as a range first. And I mean, this is a 12-hour level, right? So it's also not most optimal or nothing. But even though I've targeted this, my initial targets are here, and should we break out of this here, my next target is here. And so if we if you reject from here, I will definitely TP. I mean, if I go to bed and we just blast this into the next level, there's probably no time for me to TP. But usually if we reject from here, I TP here, and then I'm maybe on 50% of the position or something, and I trail the rest as high as I can, if possible. And so everything is a range for me, first of all. And as long as we don't break the range high, there is no reason to expect higher prices. And this is like also very good advice to really lock in gains at the first area of resistance. Treat everything as a range until proven otherwise. Because like if you always target new highs, and if you always target like price discovery, break above the highs, all-time highs, you'll probably round trip a lot of your positions, especially if it's just a mid-time frame or a 12-hour level, not most optimal. I mean, if you expose yourself down here, whenever everything hits, like matches and everything, targeting higher targets with spot makes total sense, having those different ideas. But longs, usually leverage longs, are for me like range trades, making me profitable on the way up in this case, or on the way down. Good, I mean, shorts are technically always leverage trades, but longs here in this case are making me profitable every week, every month, while I buy spot and I hold them sometimes for a month for my higher targets, because they were for most optimal levels. And these are two different parts of my game. So yes, I treat all of my longs as range trades. Also this one here, should we reverse from here, I will definitely TP at this high here, because as said, this is a downtrend on local until we take out this high, and until we take out this high, this is a range. And this could go on for 2 weeks, you know. There's really nobody who can like say with certainty that this is not going to happen here, and then I don't want to round trip my long 3 times before it breaks out. So I want to lock in some gains, and then I have gains which I can add back at key levels, should some form here locally. So you never leave a full TP limit, or no, I like to do everything manually. So I usually also trail my stop loss more or less manually. So if you break above this high, or if you break this trend line, I probably close the rest of the short, even though it hedges me here. So we will see what order flow says and everything. But I usually try to TP everything manually. And this means sometimes I'm paying a little more back. And sometimes if I go to bed and I see the level is close, my TP area is close, and I know I'm going to sleep for 8 hours, and this level is going to be hit in like the next 2, I do a partial limit order for my TP. So I can sleep well, see if I'm like having a TP overnight, and if you reject from there, that's great because I TP'd, and if you just blast through, I mean, this is too bad, but it's still profit in the end. So I do this sometimes, but I never do a full limit order TP. I just accidentally fumble my my position with the market order. But this is me. Whatever suits you and your lifestyle, because as said, I'm a full-time trader. I live off of that. For me, I have a lot of time to manage my positions. If you like have during the day several hours where you can't manage your trades, it's probably wise to do a lot more automatically. In every field, it's about pushing your limits. I wasted so much time playing games on Netflix and Bing. I could vomit about my young self. Yeah, I mean, don't be too harsh to yourself, because to be honest, I wasted a lot of time myself. And everybody did at some point in their life. And first of all, I think, to be honest, I really think that everything we do in life has a reason in the end. So everything we did wrong led us to this point where we are right now, and we are where we need to be. So life is not what you want to be, life is what you need to have or to be. And so I think every experience you made had its reason. And so, yeah, also just wasting your time back in the days had a reason for, or was happening for a reason. You did that because you didn't know better. So now looking back, of course, I wish I had done several things differently, but it all led me to this point in life, and I like where I am. So why would I be sad about this? And the only thing I can change the past. The only thing I can really change is what I do next and what I do now. And I don't have like power over my past. I can just learn and improve. but I cannot change the past. So in the end, we probably all regret some things, and yeah, it's not changeable anymore. So change what you can and accept what you can't change. And for example, I sometimes still more or less waste money, time. But I need this for my balance. So sometimes I just do things which I made this post about 20% of my time, which is sometimes several hours a day. I do stuff which is like not very helpful for my major goals, but it's helpful for my well-being of just relaxing, don't pushing myself too much all the time, because then I will burn out in the end. And life should also be fun. So the path should be fun. And while you should push yourself, it should always like be a life worth living. Because if you push yourself every time to a place or to a state of mind where you're so miserable all the time, just to be somewhere in 10 years, it's also not like the way to go, in my opinion, because if you get hit by a bus tomorrow, it could be over very soon, very quick. And so I always try to keep this balance of enjoying the moment so much. And at some point, I mean, in the beginning, as I said, you need to force yourself, you need to push yourself. And at some point, it becomes your new reality. So you want to do this because you feel great. Like, for example, eating healthy food. In the beginning, it might taste a little boring. You don't know what to cook. You don't know what to look for. But then you acquire knowledge, you acquire skills, you do this over and over and over, and suddenly you feel so good because your body is fueled right. And for example, like right now, I sometimes eat junk food, right? So I eat chips or a burger or whatever. And sometimes that's really great. But usually my body tells me very quick that this is not very healthy, because my body is now fueled with the right stuff. And if I give him the wrong things, he's like, oh, I don't like this. And why would I do this too often if I don't feel good? The thing is, we are usually so stuck into bad habits that this is the new normal. And once you feel great because you acquired good habits, you work for your goals, you achieve your goals, this becomes so rewarding itself that you don't want anything else anymore. And this is the point where you need to reach by pushing yourself and with discipline. And this might be a hard time sometimes, but in the end, your new reality won't allow you to be like go back to those bad habits, or at least not in the same way you did it before. Like I said, sometimes I enjoy these things still. And so, yeah, balance. Have your thesis on access and gaming? I keep in mind Monitor's best case in the kangaroo market plus Chinese New Year. I thought about it, and maybe access and gaming coins will run at New Year time. That it's too early now would match the releasing of GTA 6 in March, I think. Do you have a thesis regarding to this? And yeah, yes, a balance is needed. We all have friends and family to take care of. Yeah, exactly. Family, friends, and ourselves. So sometimes it's okay to let yourself from the leash and do just things you enjoy. Doesn't always need to serve any purpose. And regarding the whole thesis, I think this is not looking too bullish, right? Right now, at least. And a very interesting fact is, it's funny because most people don't look at this, but oops. Kangaroo market is right. So kangaroo market is right. But we also we follow some certain cycles, and let's say this was the low. And we topped around 1,060 days, and this is just pretty simple cycle analysis. And we topped around 1,060 days, and then we have like the bottom here, and it's like what? Oh, okay. So this sounds like this looks like we are more or less pretty close to a top. Timing-wise, this doesn't mean price-wise, and this is just Bitcoin. But we know when Bitcoin tops, usually alts have not much time left, and most alts don't have time left at all. Sometimes they top earlier, sometimes they top later. But overall, let's imagine we have like 40 days or something, or 50 days, which brings us to October this year. September, October. And so a bullish Chinese New Year doesn't really mean everything is going to run very hard, but it means potentially a big reversal is coming. But a bullish Chinese New Year, so this time around, we more or less pumped into Chinese New Year, and then we really nuked into Chinese New Year. So if it's the other way around, we would probably nuke into Chinese New Year and then pump out of there. But this doesn't mean like a full-blown bull run is starting. This could also just be a counter-trend bounce like this here, right? I mean, look at this. January, pump into Chinese New Year, April, and then, I mean, the biggest leg down of the bull market started. And so I think if there ever was a big risk on moment for altcoins, or like the whole shitcoin, I mean, ETH is at all-time highs, so we definitely have some kind of alt season already. The thing is, everybody's waiting for those low cap shitcoins because most people are just exposed to them or big exposed to them. And I think if there ever was a big risk on moment, cycle-wise, and looking at the whole like macro situation of cutting rates and all that, which is like the bullish narrative for retail, oh, cheap money, free money. But the whole situation is completely different because we are at like 4% interest rates. And if they cut it to 3%, it's still 3% interest rate. So it's not free money like in 2020 where they basically gave out free money for almost 0% interest rates. And this is not the same situation. And also, cycle-wise, as you see, we are more or less at the end of the cycle. And so if there ever was a big risk on moment, it's probably the next few weeks, month, whatever. And what people oftentimes forget is that crypto and risk assets, they do nothing for 90% of the time, and then they rip for 10% of the time. And this 10% of the time would probably, like, we are in this part of the cycle probably right now. And so, as I said, if there ever was a risk on moment, I think it's soon, and we are going to top soon. And yeah, I mean, Access, of course, could run well. I'm exposed via spot here. We have not made any higher highs yet, so this is still a downtrend, right? So expecting this, like $5 or even higher targets before taking out those minor highs is probably not the wisest decision. But it's definitely a deep discount. And I'm not into like gaming narratives, so I have no clue what this coin even is or does. I just see a coin accumulating at a high time frame discount. And I know that Monitor is usually on point with what he says, so I trust his analysis. But I still take it level by level. So to go back to this one question of treating it like a range, this is definitely a range until it's not. Then we have the next range, more or less, which is like a really big, violent one. But this, where is it? You see, this whole thing is a range until it's not. So expecting higher prices as this before this is broken is not very wise, in my opinion. Same way here. And of course, if we go to the first range high, good performance of 40%, but for most it's probably not enough. What is this? And if you go to this, it's 300%, which is like a good performance, but you need to be happy at some point with what the market gives you. And as long as we don't take out those highs, and especially if we don't do this in the next 1 or 2 months, I wouldn't bet on like staying in this coin for Chinese New Year, because probably should we not like reach higher levels from here, things could get very ugly for many of those coins, because imagine like regulations hit and everything. Yeah, it's probably over for most coins. And I said, I'm not quite sure what this really is or does, or how many companies back this up, like, or big hedge funds, like big funds or whatever. But if it's just like garbage, it's probably dying anyway at some point. So I would never be left back holding. I scale on the way up. I cut if the structure breaks down again. I TP the rest. And as I said, I expect the market to like significantly top in the next 1 or 2 months. And regarding GTA 6, I made myself some thoughts about this. And it's probably one of the most hyped events that's going to happen over the next few years. I mean, the trailer has, what, 400 million views or something, which is huge. So a lot of people are going to play this. A lot of people are going to be distracted, and they are like living a life there, which they only dream of, like having fast cars, like shooting around, robbing a bank, whatever it is. So people can live a life which they're not, which they can't in real life. And as these games can be fun, I think it's distracting a whole lot of people. And so let's imagine, go back to this whole cycle idea of, we have some like little upside left or whatever, and then we top around September, October, and from there on we like enter a bear market, break higher time frame structure like we did here. We have maybe a little relief into Chinese New Year, which this little relief on BTC is of course a big relief for altcoins and a big opportunity to be long. But once structure is broken, which we did here, of course, higher time frame structure broke here, so we took out this low. We wicked from here, then we broke it, and with the next leg down, we broke the next one. So you really want to probably be more bearish once you see this break. Best case, you sell the top, but if you miss that, you probably want to sell once this low is broken, and then you see most probably sold into this. Then it reverses into Chinese New Year. So we really want to sell somewhere here. Structure broke here already. We know context-wise this was all-time high, very, very bullish sentiment. And so this relief here for altcoins could be very nice for some longs, for some like counter trend trades. But as long as structure is not reclaimed, and as long as the structure is pointing down, I would rather expect, after this whole event, I would rather expect something like this. And imagine like you're sitting, so regarding GTA 6, you're sitting on your like deep down altcoin bags, minus 70, minus 80% already, or let's say minus 50, it doesn't really matter. And you're like, oh, hopefully this recovers. Then it recovers a little bit, and you say, oh, it's starting again. Now, really, oh, everything is coming back. And then it breaks down again. And then right when you like almost give up and be completely disappointed with your life, a real life simulator comes out where you can live a life which you can't in real life. And then you forget about your altcoins, and everything is, okay, just play GTA 5, buy the nice cars there, live my life in this world, in this reality. And then, of course, the lows form, and you are completely distracted. You don't pay attention anymore. And when the good time to buy comes around. And this is what I think about GTA and all these like entertainment kind of things. I think they are sometimes, I'm not quite sure, it sounds a little tinfoily, but I think they come out at the right time to distract people for a certain amount of time. And especially those big ones. And I also expect some big like TV show or something coming out to back this thesis. So this is just a thesis. This is just me tinfoiling around. Should like also around this time, when we really enter the aggressive phase of the bear market, all this leveraged people getting completely smashed, all altcoins getting flushed, and then the GTA comes around, and then a big TV show comes around. Everybody's only talking about this TV show. I think, to be honest, that many things are very staged in the world, and very few things are actually random. But we will see. It's just a theory. I like it, tintoing. Yeah, me too. Me too. Sitting here in the mountains, pretty far away from everything. So I don't really care too much. But yeah, another tinfoiling thing is the Ditman posted this archive everything. He did the same thing in March. 1 month later, were the big outages in south of Europe. I wrote down all my passwords, to be honest, and I also acquired Starlink, because it seems to be the only thing that worked during the outages, and I have a generator, of course. So should, like, for example, the big first leg down in the bear market be triggered by outages, and most people can't even manage their positions, and once they can again, they're down within the first week or something, they're already down 20%. And on altcoins, probably even worse. yeah, this could be very bad. So I would really manage my risk here, write down passwords, everything important. I would take this serious, to be honest, because I think outages are probably the next big black swan. And yeah, so the first leg down usually has some kind of bearish reason, and it gets more bearish on the way down, of course. And then in this area, you think the world is like end, is going to end. And so why would you buy assets then? Okay, guys, any more questions? Because otherwise I would wrap the stream up. I have a mentee in a few minutes and I need to prepare some things. Glad that you found it valuable. You have fun as well. Enjoy your weekend, guys. And thanks for joining in. Bye-bye.